The day Julian and I were supposed to celebrate our engagement, he vanished, leaving me to face a roomful of family and friends alone. When I called to ask where he was, he only said he had something to do and told me to handle things myself. A friend sent me a photo. In it, Julian was nestled against another woman. I darkened my phone, walked to a certain man's side, and slipped my hand through his arm. Smiling, I asked the man opposite Vance, "Uncle, since the alliance is with the Vance family either way, may I marry him instead?" Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. The second day of March was the date Julian and I were to be engaged. We hadn't staged a grand affair, only Riverdale's old money elite and a few longtime business partners had been invited. With both the Vance and Sterling dynasties headquartered in Riverdale, news of the match drew intense interest. Some people even tried to wiggle their way in for the networking. As the heroine of the evening, I arrived early to greet guests myself. Skylar lavished praise on my outfit, then swept the room and whispered, "Why haven't I spotted your groom?" I frowned instinctively. I still wasn't used to hearing Julian tethered to me by any label. Yet his absence didn't surprise me in the least. You've known him long enough, the young master never shows until the final second. No doubt he wanted every eye on him the instant the party began. Only this time I guessed wrong. When both clock hands snapped to 6, Julian still hadn't appeared. Most guests kept their crystal flutes lifted in polite chatter, but a few had noticed and begun to mutter, "It's past time, where's the groom to be?" Come to think of it, I haven't seen the second young master since I arrived. He's late on a day like this? Just like the rumors say. The whispers spread like a drop of water rippling across a pond. They lowered their glasses, glances ricocheting between me and the corner where my parents stood with Mr. and Vance. I followed their gaze. Every face over there looked grim, so they plainly had no idea why Julian was delayed. My phone buzzed, pulling me back. A friend had sent a live photo. Inside it, Julian had his arms around a woman, one hand patting her shoulder, head tilted as he murmured something. His expression was hidden, but the curve of his mouth dripped tenderness and indulgence. I didn't need the location pin that followed. I already recognized the Southport Hospital logo on the wall behind them. I'd seen the woman a few years earlier, Chloe, Julian's first love. Back then the two had been glued together like conjoined twins. Before the engagement was finalized, I'd asked Julian about that romance to his face. He'd never answered. His mother had cut in first to say they'd broken up ages ago and the marriage alliance would be unaffected. He'd stayed silent, and I'd taken the breakup as fact. I hadn't expected. Those murmurs, however soft, swelled as more people joined in. Bold stares, some amused, some pitying, pricked my skin until Skylar squeezed my hand. She'd glimpsed the photo and whispered, "Aurora, are you okay? Want to slip into the lounge?" I shook my head, then shifted my gaze past Vance. I opened my phone and forwarded the picture to one recipient in one seamless motion, without a second's hesitation. Done, I crossed the floor on 10-centimeter stilettos and halted before Julian's parents. At 5'9", I loomed a fraction over them without trying. Vance parted her lips, but I beat her to it, asking Vance to check his messages. His already chilly face darkened further. "Aurora, I'll give you an explanation. When that reckless boy comes home, I'll send him to your family to apologize. For now," he looked down, pondering how to salvage the evening. My parents, still in the dark, read the tension and Julian's track record and pieced together enough. I met their eyes, silently telling them to stay put. I wanted to handle this myself, and I already was. I stepped to a man standing nearby, slipped my hand through his arm, and smiled at Vance. "Uncle, since the alliance is with the Vance family, may I marry him instead?" The man wasn't a stranger. He was Julian's elder brother, Adrian. After all, the merger required only the Vance surname. Who carried it made no difference. Whether he was the son of Vance and a former wife, or whether he and Julian despised each other, was irrelevant. Only now did I recall I hadn't asked his opinion. "What do you say, Adrian?" Adrian regarded me, his expression flat, neither accepting nor refusing. He seemed to need time, so I would wait. Before the man involved could speak, a woman's angry voice rang out, unchecked, drawing an even bigger audience. "I object." I turned to see Julian's mother glaring at me, her usual elegance gone. "You were promised to my son. You can't just swap brothers. What do you take the Vance family for? What do you take my son for?" I smiled. Was her eyesight failing? Had she stood too close to the photo? "Vance, shall we ask your son's opinion together?" In under 30 seconds I had Julian on FaceTime. Clearly unaware he'd been exposed, he picked up wherever he was, making no effort to hide. "What do you want?" His tone was pure impatience. Say it and get lost. Where might the second young master be? Or have you forgotten what day this is? What? His eyes widened as memory crashed in. Then his gaze lifted to something behind him. A faint female voice murmured, the only word I caught was Julian. Look, I'm on an urgent trip out of town. Keep the guests happy for me, handle whatever comes up. He hung up before I could answer. I kept smiling. Vance, your son told me to handle it. I'd made no effort to mute the call, so the gossip never paused. Enough. Vance cut his wife off and turned to Adrian. Adrian, what say you? Adrian's expression hadn't shifted, nothing in it revealed his th. Oughts. I'll abide by father's decision. Good, it's settled. Within hours my fiancé had been exchanged for another. After the banquet I scrolled through my phone and found more than a dozen missed calls from Julian. Judging by the timeline, someone had already tipped him off before the engagement gala even started. I had just finished skimming the log when Julian's 19th call came in. Aurora, what the hell do you think you're doing? Calling off the engagement? I didn't need speaker mode. The roar of accusation leaked straight from the earpiece, loud enough for the chauffeur to flick his eyes to the rearview mirror. Calling it off? Didn't the Sterlings and the Vances just host the engagement gala today? Oh, right, looks like we forgot to invite the second Vance son. Don't worry, Adrian and I will make sure to send you a proper engraved invitation before the wedding. Julian gave a cold laugh. So, because I was stuck on a business trip you decided to punish me like this? You'll regret it. You think Adrian inside the Vance family. I cut him off before he could finish. Too noisy, too full of himself, as if he were some irresistible prize. For the next 2 weeks I was treated to daily updates on how Julian planned to make me regret it. A cozy Instagram photo of him and his high school sweetheart. Whispers from friends about the parties she'd accompanied him to. Spotting him at banquets with her on his arm. He wanted the world to know. Probably because in the 3 years since our engagement was announced I'd played the perfect fiancé, convincing everyone I was hopelessly devoted to him. So now the rumor mill had served up a juicy headline, heartbroken at the gala after Julian dumped her. Aurora spitefully married the black sheep Vance brother to get even. As luck would have it, I learned exactly how that rumor snowballed in a restaurant restroom. So the Sterling heiress really got dumped by Julian and, in a rage, proposed to the our Vance brother? Come on. The Sterlings are no weaker than the Vances. Does she have to marry into that family at all? The two voices floated in from the corridor. I lifted my hand off the stall door and listened. 90% sure she just wants to stay in the Vance family to spite Julian. He finds someone beneath her, so she picks someone beneath him to hit back. Hey, you've got a point. Julian treats this girlfriend way better than he ever treated Aurora. He dotes on her. Aurora must be livid. I stepped out and met their paper-white faces, smiling. Don't worry, I won't die of anger over Julian. Whether your parents die of anger later is another matter. You're vaguely familiar. I'd seen them once or twice. I'd look them up later. As I left, one of the rumor's other stars called me. Adrian's tone was calm. I could picture his expression perfectly. Probably the same one he'd worn the night of the engagement gala. Are you free this afternoon? I hesitated. Yes? Then may I invite you out? As in, a date? Yes. Where? I'll pick you up. The sun was brutal. I wasn't about to bake outside waiting. I ordered a coffee, settled in, and had just taken a sip when the door opened and in walked a familiar group. Well, Sterling, here all by yourself? Julian spotted me instantly and headed over, voice dripping sarcasm. I gave him a cool glance and ignored him. Unfazed, he draped an arm across Chloe's shoulders, hugging her to his side. Vivi, that island we visited last week? It was Sterling's recommendation. You loved it, remember? We should thank her now that we've run into her. Really? Thank you, Sterling. I raised my eyes. The two women from the restroom hovered behind them, eager for gossip. When my gaze landed on them they looked away, guilty. I met Chloe's eyes. She smiled sweetly, but a flicker of triumph in her irises gave her away. Island? When had I ever suggested an island to Julian? Then two memories slammed into me. Let's travel after we're engaged. How about an island? I had handed Julian the shortlist my assistant prepared. He'd barely glanced at it and tossed it back. Whatever, you decide. I snapped back, gave a careless smile. You're welcome. You looked totally uninterested at the time, so I thought my assistant's hard work had gone to waste. I'm glad Chloe enjoyed it. At least her time wasn't wasted. Chloe's smile froze, the corners of her mouth wilting until she could barely keep it up. In seconds, though, she was curled against Julian again, gazing up at him. Julian, didn't we come to invite Sterling? Julian's scowl softened. He produced a gold-embossed invitation and slid it across the table. 30th of next month, Chloe's and my engagement gala. You're welcome to attend. When my expression didn't flicker, he added, I heard Sterling's share price dipped a few points after you and Adrian got engaged. Nothing too damaging, I hope? And a couple of joint ventures were suspended, maybe, a voice from behind cut him off. You're worrying too much, little brother. We're all family now, no need for a separate invitation. Your wedding gift from us is already wrapped. Adrian, head and shoulders above the rest, didn't need anyone to make space. I could see him clearly as he walked toward us. Our eyes met, he asked with a slight smile, ready to leave? I'd had enough of this crowd. I stood, collected my bag, and nodded. Facing the two still blocking the aisle, I said pleasantly, excuse us. Your older brother and I will be at your vow renewal ceremony on time, so why stand in the way of our date? Little brother. Any place you feel like going? Adrian's voice broke the quiet inside the car. I turned from the window, puzzled. Didn't you say you had it planned? We'd already driven several miles. You looked upset back there. Maybe my choice can't lift your mood, so I'm giving you a say. Minor headaches at the group and the sight of those two had indeed soured me. Still, my brand new fiancé deserved a little courtesy, so I joked, so little faith in your date planning? Now I'm really curious. He smiled, eyes bright. Let's hope it earns your approval. We left the city, heading south into the countryside. Watching the scenery grow wilder, I teased, planning to sell me to the hills, Vance? He pretended to ponder. Hard sale, your price tag might be too high for anyone out here. The casual way he said my name made me blink. The car stopped at a small estate, modest grounds, but the setting was so charming my mood lifted instantly. I turned to Adrian. Is this yours? He gave a small nod, then motioned for me to get out and led me into the manor. After we finished the meal the staff had prepared, Adrian took me straight down to the basement. Rows of wine cabinets lined the cellar, every shelf cradling bottles from every corner of the wine world. So today's date is, what, a tasting? Did he know I loved wine, or was this just coincidence? The thought slipped out before I could stop it. Adrian stood half swallowed by the dim light. I couldn't read his face, only the amusement in his voice. Coincidence that I happened to know. Me. Maybe the wine was stronger than it tasted, my usually reliable tolerance folded, and the last thing I remembered was the dark depth of Adrian's eyes and the faint flush on the corners of his lids and lips. When I asked Adrian what had happened after the tasting, he claimed I'd simply dozed off for a few minutes and nothing else had occurred. I was skeptical, but the fragments I did recall told me not to dig any deeper. A knock from my assistant pulled me out of the memory. Come in. She handed me a folder containing the report I'd requested on the projects Julian had recently joined. Boss, there's something else. Several collaborations we were lining up with Vance subsidiaries have been cancelled, every one headed by the second young master. At least we were united in wanting the other party miserable. He'd just been brusquely obvious about it. I flipped through the file. Beauty lines, travel apps, all ventures that seemed to intersect with Julian's long-ago white moonlight. Real devotion there. Julian now held a mid-level post at a Vance satellite company, still in his probationary window. If any of his deals imploded during this stretch, slipping into headquarters in any convincing capacity would become unlikely. I circled a few items and slid the folder back. Tell planning to have pitch decks ready for these by Monday. Loop in Chenhua, Hill Run Point from here. As the Vance family's future daughter-in-law I couldn't trip the flagship openly, but if another firm wanted to bid against Julian? Perfectly routine. After all, everyone deserves a fair shot in a free market. When the paperwork was done I checked the time, still early. Adrian had bailed me out the other day and orchestrated that impromptu tasting. I ought to return the courtesy. I lifted the receiver to have my assistant pick a gift, then remembered every present she'd once chosen for Julian had missed the mark. Forget it, I'd choose this one myself. I held up 2 pairs of sunglasses, weighing whether either suited Adrian. Finally realize he's out of his depth and decide to crawl back to me with gifts? The voice behind me was familiar, arrogant, dripping disdain. I didn't bother turning, I already knew who it was. I kept scanning the shelves, nothing here quite worthy of Adrian. Footsteps approached, stopping at my side. Stop the act, Aurora. Shopping for me while pretending you can't hear me? Julian's grating tenor drilled into my ear as he glanced at the sunglasses in my hand and snorted. Better taste than the junk you used to send me, I'll give you that. But don't think a pair of shades will buy those projects back, it won't be that easy. He opened his mouth again. I cut him off. Julian, is your girlfriend so stingy you've started coveting FTS your future sister-in-law picked for your brother? No wonder the brand felt off to me, it was his favorite. Suspicion flooded his face. You're shopping for something I like, knowing Adrian will hate it? Spare me. Without his reminder I wouldn't have known Adrian disliked the label. Before I could retort, I spotted someone hovering by the entrance. I followed Julian's taunt with a question of my own. So what do you want, Julian? Dump your girlfriend and come back to me? Shall we reopen those project bids? He flicked invisible dust from his lapel, all theatrical deliberation. I'll need to think about it. I looked past him. Summers, he says he needs to think, what about you? I never learned what happened between the two of them, but someone obviously lost their mind. News reached me right after I finished listening to the planning team's pitch. The moment the meeting ended, my assistant appeared with a hot social thread. I glanced at the title, Exclusive. Riverdale Homewrecker? A quick skim told the tale. Some insider swore a certain dynastic heiress knowingly dated a man still entangled with his first love, then scrambled for a replacement the minute she was dumped. Top comments had already decoded the initials. BQT? Yeah, the one who swapped fiancés at her engagement gala. What's homewrecker supposed to mean? Word as she moved in before the guy and his white moon officially split, desperate much. I kept scrolling, truth and fiction blurred together. Spotted them shopping last week, all smiles, photo. She's been cozy with the unfavored Vance heir for ages. Cropped intimate pic, multiple alt accounts dumped photos in rapid succession, stoking the flames, obvious bots, and the puppet master wasn't hard to guess. If the Vance camp hasn't cleaned this up in 30 minutes, handle it. And circulate this. I forwarded the archive of the entire thread to Julian. 30 minutes, Vance. After that, I won't mind turning the volume up. Whether Jew Leanne was busy soothing Chloe or simply ignoring me. No reply came, no action either. Yet when my assistant walked in later, the thread, and its trending tag, had vanished. Boss, the post disappeared before we touched it. A new rumor about the second young master popped up instead. Should we still drop the recording you gave me? Hold it. I'll tell you when. Just as she'd said, the old hot topic had been replaced by a new one graphic, 7 years of on-again off-again drama between Dynasty Golden Boy and his first love. The timeline mapped Julian and Chloe's high school meet-cute, their breakup 4 years later, and the 3 murky years of almost reunions since. Now the spotlight swung back to them. Started dating the sterling heiress the minute he split, 0 gap. If they're still tangled up after breaking up, then Chloe's basically the other woman. Who's the other woman isn't clear yet. Maybe Aurora used her family's clout to swoop in while they were on a break. Barely a minute after that comment went live, someone replied with a link to an audio clip. Maybe she didn't swoop, but timing is a fact. The recording sounded old, background chatter, faint music, and a lot of static. I waited a few heartbeats before an unfamiliar male voice cut through the noise. Young Master Vance, you and Chloe are really done? Don't tell me she dumped you. The sleazy teasing was cut short by a sharp slap. Watch your mouth. Our Vance heir only dumps girls, never the other way around. The next slurred words were unmistakably Julian's, alcohol thick on every syllable. So what if she ended it? I'm the one who walked away. I've already got someone new, let her choke on regret. His voice kept fading until the last line dissolved into mumbling. That final sentence dovetailed perfectly with the clip I'd been about to post. Both proved Julian and Chloe were over before the engagement deal. The difference was my voice didn't appear in this one. So the spotlight swung away from me the moment it dropped. Much cleaner than airing my own tape. A thought flickered, remembering the day Julian and I finalized the alliance, when I'd spotted Adrian heading downstairs at the Vance mansion, and after a second's hesitation I texted it anyway. Did you set this up? Adrian answered almost before I could close the chat. Yes. Such blunt admission left me momentarily wordless. He didn't follow up either, the thread just hung there. Thanks. I glanced at the gift box on my sofa and sighed. Haven't even handed him that present and I'm already deeper in his debt. Free tonight? Let me buy you dinner. Okay. Another instant reply. He picked the restaurant, claiming the private room view was unbeatable. Only after I'd witnessed a screaming match did I realize view meant live theater. While waiting for dessert I scanned our surroundings. Second floor private dining room, entire left wall of glass overlooking the courtyard. Pretty garden, but a massive tree blocked most of it, only a few slivers were clear. Puzzled, I asked, what's so special about the scenery here? Adrian tapped the tabletop, a playful twitch at his lips. Patience, just watch. I wondered if the place put on some scheduled show. The waiter had just set down dessert when a loud crack shattered the hush, something smashable breaking downstairs, followed by shouting. Instinctively I looked at Adrian. Had he orchestrated this? Our eyes locked. He said nothing, only tilted his head toward the window. I leaned forward and saw 3 figures below. Julian and Chloe? Plus an unfamiliar man I'd never met. I glanced back, wordlessly asking Adrian for subtitles. He didn't bother watching the spectacle, just poured himself tea. Without raising his gaze he filled me in. The eldest Zhang boy from Westmont, Chloe's boyfriend. Officially broke up last month, on our engagement night to be precise, or rather, he was notified they were through. When a man can't find his girl, he gets frantic. We really ought to help. All this arranged in under a day? Coincidence, or long in the making? My head buzzed, but the next explosion of voices yanked me back to the scene. Even in a venue this private, rubberneckers lurked. I spotted someone in the corridor filming the whole screaming match on his phone. You said you'd think about my proposal. 1 month of thinking and your answer is we're over, all for that guy? You didn't want me visiting you in Southport because you were hiding this, right? Chloe, you're a master scheduler, 1 in Westmont, 1 in Riverdale, probably a 3rd still warming your bed in Southport. The man's voice climbed to a shriek, unpacking 3 years of their relationship for the audience. Julian looked equally blindsided, face like stone, lips moving, too far to catch the words. His hands balled into fists. After scanning the crowd he unclenched, turned, and stalked off. Julian, listen to me. Chloe sprinted after him. The cuckolded boyfriend just stared at their retreating backs, then casually checked his phone. Curtain down. I returned to my seat. You hired the supporting actor, didn't you? Adrian met my gaze without denial. Now everyone knows exactly who was two-timing whom, evidence crystal clear. I blinked. Was he referencing that forum jab? Overnight the courtyard brawl spawned a dozen threads. I found out only when my assistant briefed me. The same keyboard warriors who'd flamed me hours earlier had pivoted to torching Chloe. No original thoughts, just herd mentality. A knock. My secretary stepped in. Sterling, Julian is here to see you. Send him in. Chin in hand, I couldn't fathom what he wanted. She ushered him inside. We stared at each other until the silence grew awkward. Unwilling to indulge him, I raised an eyebrow. Speak. I've dumped Chloe. My parents say your engagement to Adrian isn't binding. It was only an announcement. We can head straight to the AR ourselves. I actually recoiled. Did he have a brain lesion to spout such shameless drivel? I swallowed the urge to have security toss him out and leveled my tone. If your head hurts, go see a neurologist. Want me to dial the number? Julian's turned to frown. He gave a cold laugh. Stop the coy games. You orchestrated that whole public breakup scene, didn't you? Or are you claiming that wasn't you in the balcony box that night? I was there, but, he talked right over me. Good, you admit it. You've had your tantrum about me missing the engagement gala, satisfied now? Let's start over. I was already disgusted by his shameless, self-obsessed face. Did he really think he was some hot commodity? I spoke slowly, word for word, just in case Julian didn't catch my meaning. Still, I kept the parts about Adrian vague. I didn't want Julian guessing who'd actually plotted this. I was only there that night by coincidence. If certain people hadn't made such a racket, I wouldn't even have looked. I'm engaged to your brother, and I will marry only him. I'd advise the second young Vance to show his future sister-in-law the proper respect, unless he wants the Vance family to become a laughingstock. Julian's eyes looked ready to spit fire. He glowered at me for a long moment, unable to squeeze out a single syllable. After a beat he gave a cold snort. Fine. In that case, I suppose several joint ventures between our families are off the table. Adrian's so capable, go negotiate with him. He stalked toward the door, then stopped at the last second and glanced back, as though something had just occurred to him. Sister-in-law? You two have only been engaged a few months. Word is he still keeps someone else's photo, his heart's already taken. Wouldn't it be humiliating if the groom bolted at the altar too? I fired back, oh? So you do know what humiliation feels like, Julian? Practice makes perfect, and the Vance family will be right there with me. Besides, if he really did run, I'd love to see how badly the Vance stock dips after another display of bad faith. Julian left scarlet-faced. I'd acted indifferent while I was sparring with him, but the deeper I get to know Adrian, the more our shared interests and matching outlooks make me want to understand this man. Do I truly not mind? I sat staring at the painting he'd given me, hanging on the wall, asking myself the question. My assistant didn't give me much time to dwell. A knock interrupted my thoughts. Here are the final drafts of those 2 project proposals for your approval. We also won 2 more bids, contracts are ready to sign. She studied my face, worry creeping into her voice. A colleague reported that Vance called someone the moment he left, saying he's terminating cooperation with us. Should we brace for impact? His subsidiary had already cut ties, now he wanted the parent company to follow suit. Chairman Vance dotes on Julian, but he'd never jeopardize the relationship with the Sterlings over a family spat, meaning core projects are safe. If it's not core yet still important, it's probably our newly launched market push product line. Which departments inside Vance would those products land with? I drummed my fingers on the desk, plotting. Approve these proposals and tell the project team to prep for the boardroom showdown. Also, contact Adrian at Vance headquarters, say we have cooperation to discuss. The gala hall sparkled, a single evening can birth billion-dollar deals. I'd just finalized an agreement with one CEO when I rounded a corner and bumped straight into Julian. I intended to ignore him, but the fool couldn't resist another taunt. What, the partnership collapsed so you're scrambling for anyone to pick up the pieces? If I remember correctly, Lynn's firm has 0 overlap with your project's field. Regrets are useless now. I won't give you another chance. I let his self-important monologue run its course, then thanked him sweetly. Vance, you did. And honestly think those few ventures you know about are our only ones? Sorry to disappoint, I've already closed a new deal with Lynn. If fate allows, we'll meet in the next boardroom showdown. Oh, and I hear the projects under your charge keep losing bids. I wonder if you'll even qualify to show up. How did you? Julian wasn't so dense that he missed the implication. He clamped his mouth shut. AUT is yours? I lifted my crystal flute in a lazy toast, neither confirming nor denying. Infuriated, Julian swung his arm at me. I'd half expected it and was already stepping back when another hand clamped around Julian's wrist midair. Little brother, scenes like this don't play well in public. Adrian flung Julian's arm away. Strike out yourself and then lose your temper? Julian finally exploded. Who do you think you are, meddling in my business? If you're so damn capable, why are you still just a department head? Adrian straightened his cuff, unruffled. Haven't you received the memo? Starting next week I'm manager of the 6th project division. Since you're out of the loop, here's the advance copy. Your string of bad calls has killed partnerships and lost bids, pushing the subsidiary deep into the red. Forget a headquarters transfer, the board just revoked your GM title. In the end, Vance summoned Julian away. Apparently his behavior had become too embarrassing. I probably won't see him again, except at unavoidable functions. Still, I turned to Adrian on the terrace beside me. Our eyes met, neither of us looked away first. I keep telling myself I don't care, but swallowing the question won't make it disappear. If he truly loves someone else, ours is nothing but a strategic merger. If it's only a misunderstanding. I drew a deep breath and asked outright, Julian says you're in love with someone? The instant the words left my mouth I lost the courage to meet his gaze and turned my head. A hand appeared in front of me, holding a photograph. In this? I took it reflexively. A shot from behind? The backdrop looked familiar, and so did the girl. Wait, that's... I jerked my head up, stammering, this isn't me, is it? Amusement glittered in his eyes, his laughing voice teased, you can't tell? Am I really that bad a photographer? I stared, incredulous. That's our high school uniform. You've been secretly crushing on me? Adrian nodded matter-of-factly. So that's why you've been ignoring my texts. Problem solved, shall we pick a wedding date? I was too curious to let him pivot. When did you even fall for me? How come I never knew? He ignored the question and kept going. Before the wedding I need to take you abroad to meet my mother. We'll see what else needs deciding. Seeing me pout and protest, he laughed. I'll tell you everything the day we set the wedding date, deal? I gave a grudging yes and fired off a list of demands. All right. Starting tomorrow, we'll tick them off together, one by one. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and share with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more captivating tales. See you next time.